Doing this lesson had better be ready to go. You know we look for things to stay the same, but in the twinkling of an eye, everything can be changed. I'm telling you, can't no one know at sunrise how this day is going to end. And I'm telling you, can't no one know at sunset if the next day will begin. Oh, can't no one know at sunrise how this day is going to end. And I'm telling you, can't no one know at sunset if the next day will begin. You know the troubles of the world fill our hearts with rage, from Soweto to Stonewall, Birmingham and LA. You know we're searching for hope that lies within ourselves as we fight against misogyny, race, hatred, and hate. Ain't no one know at sunrise how this day is going to end. Can't no one know at sunset if the next day will begin. Can't no one know at sunrise how this day is going to end. Can't no one know at sunset if the next day will
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Silver Spring. I'm Carolyn Savadkin, and my pronouns are she and her. I'd like to welcome all guests or visitors in the congregation today. Jim Street is our welcoming captain. Jim is here to answer questions, he's waving from the back, about our congregation. The aftermath of the 2020 elections has many people feeling on edge as Tuesday's midterm election approaches. This morning's service about finding resilient hope and faith in something bigger and stronger than the outcome of any election, and how such hope and faith can sustain a lifetime of work for justice. About halfway through today's service, children will have the choice to stay in the sanctuary or leave and do an activity downstairs. We also have a nursery for children 6 months through age 5, but babies and children are always welcome in the service. It's time to greet one another. By getting those on Zoom, everyone here in the sanctuary, please turn to the camera at your right and wave to those joining us virtually. And soon after that, they will turn on the cameras, appear on the screen in here, and we will get to see their beautiful faces.
Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind staying freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind stay on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Woke up this morning with my mind stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stay on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I love her voice.
Can I get an amen after that one?
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. In a world troubled by war, greed, and uncertainty, we gather together to feel our connection to all that is, to sing our joy and our pain, to remember that hope is stronger than fear, and to attend the still small voice, that one true guide that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine within us. May the love, the spirit, the goodwill in the hearts of each and every person gathered now, today, be in us and with us, and bless us as we worship together. Good morning, everybody. My name is Reverend Kristin. My pronouns are she, her, and I have the privilege of being one of the ministers of this congregation. It's now, woohoo, yay! It's now time to light our chalice, symbol of our free faith, and reaffirm our congregational commitment. Please, let's rise in body or spirit. Please join me in saying the chalice lighting words. May this light warm our hearts with love and caring and guide us in the ways of truth. And now for the words of our congregational commitment. As we gather here for worship, we pledge ourselves right of each to believe as mind, heart, and conscience dictate. Responsibilities this freedom commands, and to implement our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. Won't you please be seated and join me in singing our chalice song.
So I'm the Reverend Caitlin Cotter-Quailberg, your Minister of Spiritual Growth. And the story I have for you today comes from the late, great Congressman John Lewis. He titled the story, Walking with the Wind. So when John Lewis was a child, there was a time when he was playing outside with about 14 other children, outside in the dirt, outside his Aunt Suniva's house. And the sky began clouding over. The wind started picking up as they were playing. Lightning flashed off in the distance. And John Lewis says he wasn't thinking about playing anymore. He was terrified. Now, Aunt Suniva was the only adult around, and as the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, she herded all of the children into her little bitty house. And again, her house was not the biggest around, John Lewis said. And it felt even smaller with all those children, those 15 children crowded in with her. Small and surprisingly quiet. All the sounds of their playing from before, the laughing and the shouting, that was all done. They were quiet. That had all stopped. The wind was howling outside, and the house was starting to shake. All of the children were scared. Even Aunt Suniva was scared. And then it got worse. It got worse. Now the house was beginning to sway. The wood plank flooring of the little house began to bend. And then a corner of the house started to lift up. John Lewis says he couldn't believe what he was seeing. None of them could. That the storm was actually pulling the house towards the sky, with us inside it, he said. And this is when his aunt stepped in. His Aunt Suniva had all the kids hold hands, and she began leading the kids. She said, line up and hold hands. And the kids did it right away. As you can imagine, when you're scared like that, and adults like, all right, everyone hold hands. You're like, all right, we're going to hold hands, right? And then she started to walk with the kids as a group towards the corner of the house that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house, we walked, he said, the wind screaming outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof. Then they walked back to the other direction as the other side of the house started to lift. And so it went throughout that storm. 15 children and Aunt Geneva walking from one side of the house to the other, holding that trembling house down with the weight of their small bodies. John Lewis said, more than half a century had passed since that day, and it has struck me more than once over these many years that our society is not unlike the children in that house, rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they might fly apart. He wrote, it seemed that way in the 1960s at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt as if it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed. They came together, and they did the best they could, clasping hands and moving towards the corner of the house that was the weakest. And then another corner would lift, and we would go there. And eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle and the house would still stand. But we knew another storm would come and we would have to do it all again. And we did. And we still do. All of us, you and I, children holding hands, walking with the wind. And again, the words of the late, great John Lewis, who led so many of us into good trouble and whose legacy of good trouble we continue to live into. So now we have come to the time of centering. I'm going to invite you to center with me before we head into our moment of silence. So I invite you to settle comfortably in your chair, perhaps settle your feet on the floor or your hands in your lap. You may wish to close your eyes or settle your eyes on a candle flame. I invite you to take a breath and remember that moment in the story when John Lewis, as a child, took hands with the other children and walked around that house, keeping it grounded in that storm. I invite you to imagine the wooden boards of that small house shaking and rising, the sound of the wind outside, and then the feel of another child's hand in yours, small fingers wrapped around yours, anchoring you together. And if you wish at this point, you may want to take the hand of someone seated near you, if you both consent, of course. Or I invite you to clasp your hands together or hold your thumbs. I don't know if you've ever held your thumbs. Holding your thumbs is a great tool in breathing. Holding your thumbs and tool is a great tool for grounding yourself if ever you need that. I invite you to breathe for a moment and focus on your hands. To imagine your hands growing warm and the warmth of your hands extending beyond your grip, beyond your seat. To imagine that warmth spreading out like a soothing, anchoring blanket or a campfire's dancing glow. And imagine it merging with the warmth of other held hands until all around you are basking in that gentle, fierce warmth. I invite you to let that warmth shine forth like a beacon and spread in your imagination, in your spirit, beyond these walls, beyond Silver Spring, beyond the District of Columbia and our United States, beyond the tundras of Canada and Mexico's deserts and all the forests and fields of this beautiful Turtle Island. To imagine the warmth, the glow, circling our wide world, our whole planet in a gentle, fierce, protective hug. And imagine that warmth circling back to you and holding you in a fierce, gentle, protective hug. I invite you to rest now in this love, this firm commitment, this warmth that begins with one held hand. And as you rest in that warmth, in that glow, in this love that holds us all, I invite you to join in a moment of quiet together, grateful for the sounds of life all around us. You may wish to release hands or to continue holding. If you have suffered a deep loss in this last year, I invite you to stand or raise your hand during the silence so the congregation can bear witness to your grief.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll
invite you to join me in prayer, giving voice to those hopes most deep in our hearts. This prayer was written by my friend and colleague, the Reverend Vanessa Southern. I have shortened it. So much undone, so much to do, so much to heal in us and the world, so much to acquire. Proof we have and are enough just around the corner of now. And up against it, the reality of all that falls short and the limits of today. Today we honor the limits. The world won't stop spinning on her axis if you don't rise to all occasions today. Love won't cease to flow in your direction. Your heart won't stop beating. All hope won't be lost. You are part of the plan for this world's salvation. Of that, I have no doubt. The world needs its oceans of people striving to be good. But oceans are big, and I am sure there are parts that don't feel up to the task of the whole some days. Rest, if you must then, like the swimmer lying on her back who floats, or the hawk carried on cushions of air. Rest in seats made to hold weary lives, in space carved out for the doing of nothing much but being. Perhaps then you will feel in your bones, in your weary heart, the aching, healing sense that this is enough, even this, that we are enough. You are enough. Enough. For these and all the meditations of our hearts unspoken in this hour, let us say, Amen. Amen. Blessed be.
This reading is from Prisoners of Hope, written by Cornel West, and the impossible will take a little while. The country is in deep trouble. We've forgotten that a rich life consists fundamentally of serving others, trying to leave the world a little better than you found it. This is true at the personal level, but there's also a political version, which has to do with what you see when you wake up in the morning. And look in the mirror and ask yourself whether you are simply wasting your time on the planet or spending time enriching it. We need a moral, prophetic minority of all colors who muster the courage to question the powers that be, the courage to be impatient with evil and patient with people, and the courage to fight for social justice. In many instances, we will be stepping out on nothing and just hoping to land on something, but that's the struggle. To live is to wrestle with despair, yet never allow despair to have the last word.
Two years ago, on this very Sunday before Election Day, I told this same story. Some of you may remember it. David O. Rankin, a Unitarian Universalist minister, preached a sermon in 1968, just before the presidential election, in which he was pretty unenthusiastic about the choice between Richard Nixon or Hubert Humphrey. Instead of making a case, however subtly, for either candidate, instead, he simply said that he hoped everyone would vote for the most intelligent, experienced, and compassionate candidate. A few minutes later, in the receiving line after the service, a man shouted at him, "How dare you use the pulpit to support Hubert Humphrey?" It is a misconception that clergy cannot preach about politics from the pulpit. That is a misconception. If that were the case, clergy could never preach about anything. For as the women's liberation movement taught us, the personal is political. Everything is political. That said, the law is clear that what clergy may not do is endorse or disparage candidates. So I want to begin by being very clear that I neither endorse nor disparage any candidates today. No, today I'd like to talk about politics instead of candidates, because I think it's time to reclaim the political narrative about values. For decades, the political right has championed itself the side of values voters, the moral majority, the religious right, and family values. The implication, of course, has been that everyone who isn't on the political right is in a minority, isn't right, and has the opposite of family values. And yet, the people I see here today are deeply committed to lots of values that support all kinds of families. Truth, justice, the common good, the right of each to vote for the leader of their choosing, an end to oppression, policies that help all kinds of families, and true peace for all people everywhere. Those are our values. Now, I've come to know this congregation as a community of people who try to live good lives, avoid causing harm to others, people who strive to follow through on their commitments. And I think a great many people around the country try to live this way, even if we don't always agree on how to accomplish the goals of the common good. But as Cornel West says, and as anyone who's been paying attention these last several years knows, this country is in trouble. The common good is no longer a shared political goal across the political spectrum. And for many, the democratic process itself has become an obstacle to overcome in the race to power. Now, I talked earlier about the misconception that clergy cannot preach about politics. Another widespread misconception is that liberal religion and liberal politics are synonymous, that they're the same thing. They are not synonymous, but they are related, but maybe not in the way that you think. Over the years, liberal political platforms have adopted many of the values and goals that liberal religion has held for generations. The idea that our religious and theological understanding should inform our response to social problems came out of a theological movement called the social gospel. Theologically, social gospelers worked to narrow the gap between the equality they believed all people share in the eyes of God and the way so many people were being treated by society. This theological movement had a lot of overlap with the labor movement and helped fuel the end of child labor, equal access to public education, unionization, desegregation, the establishment of Medicare and Medicaid, and Social Security. This was a theological movement that provided theological, moral, and ethical undergirding to a lot of the other movements that unfolded in the 20th century. They didn't come out of nowhere. This history is one of the reasons that liberal religion and liberal politics share a hopeful outlook on the future. When our religious ancestors began splitting theologically from the Calvinism that ruled their day, they did so convinced that reality isn't inherently rigged to unfold in a particular way. God has not foreordained every single bitty thing that's going to happen. And therefore, what people do matters. What we do matters. That's a faith claim that we have, folks, and it matters. And because of that, rather than being fearful of progress, evolution, or change, liberalism looks forward to those things. We place faith and hope in those things. And yet here we are. Here we are, losing ground on so much of the hard-won progress so many generations have made. I think this is the reason it feels like the world is coming apart at the seams, as John Lewis said. 20 years ago, I never expected that I'd find myself having to defend voting rights, affirmative action, or abortion rights now in the 20s. Isn't that weird to say, the 20s? Yeah, right. Not so roaring this time around. The truth is, no matter who is elected around the country on Tuesday, people who believe in freedom, democracy, bodily autonomy, fill in the blank, are going to experience some painful losses in the coming years. We are. And that's why we must be about the long game. If hope and faith are to sustain us, to bring us strength, they must be rooted in something bigger, deeper, more lasting than the outcome of any election. I think there is a reason religions from all over the globe are rooted in stories. And that's because stories convey deep truth often so much better than any outline of facts. And when I think of what is big, what is strong and deep and worthy of my hope and faith, I think of the spirit that led American women 150 years ago yesterday to turn out to the polls and exercise their right to choose either Horace Greeley, who was a Universalist, by the way, or Ulysses S. Grant for president. As Heather Cox Richardson, a political historian, wrote yesterday, this was not a right they explicitly had yet. But there was a power at work inside them when they decided to claim it anyway. When I think of that which is worthy of my hope and faith, I think not so much of Susan B. Anthony, who got a lot of the press, but of the women who had worked and suffered for the survival of the United States to be explicitly and intentionally excluded from the rights guaranteed in the 14th Amendment. I think of the force that propelled those women forward in the work to make the law reflect their equality even after such a defeat. Can you imagine working for that and then having the language of the 14th Amendment explicitly exclude you? I think of the women of color whom the suffragette movement betrayed. Let us not mince words, friends. Refusing to fight for their equality. I think of the incredible power of hope and faith that helped them continue the fight anyway, despite unending setbacks. That is the power that I put my hope and my faith in. The same spirit of life and love and freedom that is at the heart of our free faith is the same spirit of justice that has brought the mighty down from their thrones, exalted the lowly, filled the hungry with good things from generation to generation. And come what may in Tuesday's elections all around the country, the same spirit of life and love, freedom and justice that has inspired so many who have gone before us, this same spirit or force or power, whatever you want to call it, it will be at work in us with us and through us and millions of others who are working for an inclusive and equitable United States of America. As I mentioned in Joys and Sorrows, tomorrow evening I will travel to Pennsylvania to serve with other clergy on a safety squad with the election defenders. It's been a little bit like a ministerial reunion on these training calls. There are so many ministers involved. And my role will be to de-escalate tense and anxiety-producing situations at polling places to ensure all voters are able to cast their ballots. I know many of you have been working to get out the vote, getting trained up to serve as election judges and observers, setting up rides for friends and neighbors who need help getting to the polls. If you are a registered voter and you haven't voted early or by absentee ballot, please make a plan and go vote on Tuesday. And whether you are a registered voter or not, whether you are old enough to vote or not, it will be important for all of us to take care of ourselves, to tend our spirits on Tuesday and beyond. You may be tempted to leave the news on all day on Tuesday. I know you. You may be tempted to doom scroll through social media every single break you get at work. Please don't. Please don't. What will happen whether our anxiety is through the roof or not. Okay? Take a walk. Meet a friend for lunch. Focus on the good and beautiful and true within you and around you. Because if we are to remain inside the house, we must invest our hope and faith in that which is bigger and stronger and grander than the outcome of any election. If you take anything away from this service today, let it be that. Because as much as we might wish the fight for freedom and equality and democracy weren't ours to take up yet again, it is. It's ours. And our children and their children can't afford for us to give up. As your minister, I endorse no candidates today. It is not my place to tell you who to vote for, but I believe it is absolutely my place to encourage all who are eligible, who haven't voted yet, to vote for the candidates you feel are the most intelligent, the most compassionate, the most committed to justice. I'm just doing my job, y'all. And to encourage you to join me in loving the hell out of this country, each in our own ways. Because come what may, we can't heal a country we don't also love. Because come what may, we are bold and courageous, and we are charting a new future, whether there are some people in this country that want that or not. Because come what may, we have faith in a future that is not known. As the hymn 145 in our gray hymnal says, we revere the past, but we trust the dawning future more. That's our faith. Because come what may, we are the people we have been waiting for. I close my sermon today with the words of the late great Congressman John Lewis. America feels as if it might burst at the seams, so much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience can never leave the house. We cannot run away. We will stay. We will come together and do the best we can, clasping hands and moving toward the corner of the house that is the weakest. And eventually, inevitably, this storm will settle, and God willing, the house will stand. But we know another storm will one day come, and we will have to do some version of this work again. And that is when our children and grandchildren will look to us. That is when they will read our words, study what for them will be the history of these days. I'm going to read that line again. Study for them what will be the history of these days that lie now ahead of us, and they will gain strength and comfort from our commitment, from our fortitude, from our unwillingness to give up. May it be so, and may we make it so. Amen.
I invite you into our congregation's weekly practice of generosity. As you can see on the screen, there are many ways to give your gift to UUCSS. If you're here in person, you can also place your offering in one of the offering plates as it is passed around during the music that will begin in just a moment. May our hearts grow as we practice generosity together, and as we help keep the dream of a better world alive. The offering will now be given and received with gratitude.
People get ready, there's a train coming. Don't need no baggage, you just climb on board. That's all you need to keep those diesels running. And you don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. All aboard, get on board. 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 People get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers.
I'd like to invite Catherine forward to come share our announcements today. I don't think you need this.
Hi, I'm Catherine Buckler, and I am a member of our Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she and her, and I am so grateful to be part of this congregation. Thank you, Reverend Kristin, for that sermon. That was wonderful. Our church is not only the organization, that puts together these services. We are a vibrant community of volunteers and staff, a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and part of the global UU denomination. We have 3 announcements. Our first announcement is about membership and about 3 important parts. And it has 3 important parts. Part A, have you lost your name tag? Want to reinvent yours, personalize it, or give it some sparkle? The membership committee has a table at the back of the sanctuary where you can do just that. We have mini stickers, glitter, colored pencils, pens, and our trusty name tag machine. We'll be here the next 3 Sundays, so come by and make your name tag a true expression of you. Part B for membership. Along with the name tag stuff, we also have copies of the updated membership directory on clipboards in the back of the sanctuary. If you haven't had a chance to respond to Jeanette Jackson, our office administrator, and her request for corrections by email, please be sure to check your entry in the directory and make any necessary corrections. And for those of you on Zoom, I hope you'll look for that email and check and make sure your entry is correct. Part C. Next Sunday, November 13, membership is sponsoring coffee hour, so you don't want to miss the goodies we will be offering as our way of saying we love you all, members, friends, and visitors. We want to celebrate each and every one of you and think there's no better way of doing that by feeding y'all. And if I know the chair of the membership committee, there'll be good food there. Okay, that's all for membership. Our second announcement today is about RE, which is religious education. We hope everyone will join us for the next RE listening circle this Thursday, November 10th at 8 p.m. This is a chance for you to share what you are excited about, longing for, hoping to make happen in our religious education programs for adults, children, and youth. You can find the link to the meeting, which I guess that means it's going to be on Zoom, by going to the calendar on the church website, ucss.org/calendar, and clicking on the event. The Zoom link will be listed as the event's location on the calendar listing. Our third and final announcement is about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is just over the horizon, and some of us are without family and acquaintances nearby to share dinner with. We've put together an online sign-up to help connect those folks with each other at UCSS, with other UCSS households who are eager to invite more guests to their tables. If you'd like to celebrate Thanksgiving dinner with someone here at church, please fill out the form by November 15th. The link will be in an all-church email, and if you have questions, please reach out to Carrie Schneider, who right now is over in the choir loft. And that's it. Thank you so much.
All right, won't you please join me in the words of chalice extinguishing? Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. And now let's rise in body, spirit, or voice and join in singing our closing hymn, The Fire of Commitment. It's number 1028 in the Teal Songbook, but the words will also be on the screen.
Speak.
lot of fun things happening here at church this month. I wanted to add one final announcement of my own, and that is the Sunday before Thanksgiving. I'm really excited about it, and I hope you all come. It's going to be so great. It is going to be a service all about abundance. Everyone's invited to bring pie, your favorite pie, any kind of pie that you want to bring, icebox pie, fruit pie, pecan pie, savory pie, any kind of pie. Bring pie because we will enjoy eating pie after the service on the 20th, and it's the kickoff to our capital campaign. Woo-hoo-hoo! All right. I had to get that out of my system. I also want to let people know the board voted a couple weeks ago to change the policy. Worship is going to remain an event where masks are required. Most religious education classes will also remain that way. Coffee hour is going to be masks optional. The way we are going to do this so that we can care for one another and make sure everyone has time and space to choose where they want to be and whether they want to be in a space with people who are not masked inside or not, 10 minutes after the very end of the postlude, okay? I am going to ring this here singing bowl. Same singing bowl I ring at the end of the silent meditation, okay? That's going to be the cue that it's okay for people here in the sanctuary to remove their masks. Okay, so if you want to get your coffee hour refreshments and come back upstairs, today's a pretty mild day, so I don't know that any of us are going to feel a pressing need to come back inside for coffee hour. However, that is how we are going to try this. This is a new thing. We don't know exactly how to do this in the perfect way, but this is the way we're going to try it. So 10 minutes after the postlude ends, I will ring the singing bowl, and that's the signal for anyone in here who wishes to remove their mask. If you do not want to be somewhere inside with unmasked people, that's your cue to go outside. All right? All right. Now for the benediction. Come what may, friends, we are going to keep on moving forward. Come what may, we are going to keep on loving boldly. Come what may, we are going to keep on working for justice. And we're never going to turn back. We're never going to turn back. Our worship now has ended and our service begins.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning